Penn State and Cale Sanderson objectively landed the top 3 recruits in the class of 2025 with PJ Duke, Marcus Blaze, and yes, Masanosuke Ono too. But which one of them is actually the best overall?
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to Penn State wrestling. And as always, thank you so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. My name is Zach Seyko, your host of the show, the #1 Penn State sports podcast out there. I'm also a credentialed media member for both Penn State football and Penn State wrestling. He is the voice of Penn State wrestling. Jeff Byers returns to the show as we are talking about more takeaways from the World Team Trials, about how close Carter Starocci was, and is that breakthrough going to happen sooner rather than later after this cycle? Levi Haynes bounced back against Dean Hamiti. Josh Barr looks almost unstoppable presently, but we got to begin with this class of 2025. I've been talking about PJ Duke winning at the senior level. Marcus Blaze, certainly, even though he didn't win, finishing third at the World Team Trials and losing to Jesse Mendez 4-1 is still something you shouldn't bat an eye at. And Masanosuke Ono, it's debating who actually is the best recruit in this class of 2025, because Penn State objectively has the top 3 recruits in the class of 2025. But Jeff, which one's the best?
You know, that is a great question. I think that's kind of similar looking back now and saying, all right, who had the better career, Carter Starocci or Aaron Brooks? It's like, well, you tell me what you think. And I'll listen to somebody that disagrees, and I'll say, "Yep, you're both right." There's, there's differences obviously in them, but in terms of the potential and really even the credentials they bring in, there's not much to pick from there. I mean, Ono, I think, would come in if you're counting him as a part of that recruiting class. To me, just because of the being a world medalist. Already, he probably has credential-wise. I guess I'd give him the edge. But what Marcus Blaze and PJ Duke are doing is truly astounding. Duke just looks so polished and so well put together. I mean, he is a phenom for sure, but he's also just he really does look like a man among boys at the high school level. I think when you look at him and his body type and the way he's built, you don't look at him. I don't look at him as a kid who's getting ready to start college. Like, he looks like a polished product and somebody that's been in the college weight room for 4 or 5 years already. So, he's special. Marcus Blaze, every time I watch him, Zach, I get more impressed with just his the combination of his tenacity, but just his wrestling savvy. He really has just a feel for the sport that, again, the great ones have. It's just, that their hips, they flow well. They know how to work out of positions when they get themselves in some danger. And to me, Marcus is just one of those guys that you just can hardly wait to watch, because you're not sure what all he's going to do next. So, they have 3 studs for sure coming into the program, in those 3. And, the fact that PJ Duke could be on the world team here is
senior level.
And I just I know the sport has evolved, and we're seeing more and more high school guys. Jax Forrest has a chance to be on the team as well. Obviously you have Bo Bassett coming up and Marcus Blaze and all these guys. I still struggle to get my head around the idea of a high school kid, no matter how good, being able to go toe-to-toe, let alone beat guys that are veterans in college, or now in the case of PJ Duke, he's knocking off guys that have been out of school,
reigning NCAA champions, and in the same day, Jeff, day,
just absolutely incredible. But again, he's also beating veteran guys that have been in the sport beyond their college years and have that type of international experience. So It is remarkable, to say the least, and the fact that that's the concern or the issue. Which of those three are you most excited about? That's a pretty nice position to be in. But to me, it's kind of like, who are you most excited about when you're, looking at the Penn State running back room in football right now? It's like, well, again, tell me who you're excited about, and you're right. Those you can go probably 4 deep in that running back room. But I mean, these three guys are just all elite and very, very special wrestlers.
And it is a little difficult to compare them because they are wrestling at different weight classes. Of course, I guess Blaze and Ono are fairly close. They're going to be competing for either the 133 or the 141 spot. Yeah. Ono, I want to bring this back up because in freestyle, at the age of 19, 20, he's defeating former Olympic champions, former world champions, all in this same tournament. So the same praise that we give to Duke for knocking off Antrell Taylor and Ridge Lovett back to back in the same day, and Bryce Andonian, Ono, you could argue, takes that a step further by defeating world champions and former Olympic champions on the truly biggest stage outside. Okay, not the Olympics, but right below that, worlds. But Ono, I want to bring it back up because he hasn't wrestled a lot of folk style. He's training in it, of course, but you don't win those matches by accident. So Jeff, is the folk style learning curve is it that big of a deal?
I think it is, but I also think he'll be able to handle it. I mean, I do think it is substantially different if you've not been around it. Again, it's one thing if you're focusing on one discipline or the other, but you're exposed and participating or at least practicing the other. I am guessing, I guess I don't know for sure. I don't think Ono, until he came over here last year, and even then, I don't think he was doing any folk style. I don't know why he would have been training folk style. Might have been playing around a little bit with it and just talking to the guys about it. But when you've not trained at all in it, again, to some degree, wrestling is wrestling, but it's a really different mat experience. And to me, folk style is much more difficult because you have to the endurance that it takes to either ride somebody effectively for multiple minutes, or to the energy you're expending to try to get out underneath a guy who is determined to keep you on the mat. It's just that, to me, makes folk style the more challenging of the two. And I think that's going to be the challenge for Ono. I suspect he'll be able to adjust fairly quickly to the top game, but that bottom game, I'm telling you, it's different when your goal is to just not get turned and to keep wide versus, man, I got to get out. I got to figure out how to get away from this guy that is absolutely determined and is skilled at keeping me on the mat. So, again, do I think it's something that's going to prohibit him from succeeding? No, but I do think it's a steep learning curve. Now, he's in a great room to learn that, and I think, again, he's from everything we're seeing, he's a guy that picks up on stuff pretty quickly. So I think he'll make the adjustment, but I do think it's going to be an adjustment. And the other part that goes along with it, Zach, and it's, again, why I think folk style is the more challenging, especially at the collegiate level. And I think we talked about this a little bit last time I was on with you, but it is a grueling season. It is a long season, that college wrestling season. And it's just a different type of grind.
The weight cuts.
Yes, because you're keeping your weight on a weekly basis. Mm-hmm. Freestyle, you can let that weight get up a little bit for a couple of months. You're still training hard, but you're not having to be as disciplined as consistently. Plus, you're managing classes. I mean, it is a different type of grind. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, it's not that I'm expecting Ono to fail because of any of this, but it's just, I do think it's not as automatic as some are making it sound that he's just going to walk in and win a national title. it is a different style of wrestling. It is a different type of grind to get through the season. And I think, when you combine those things, I think there's, reason for concern. And again, I'm not sitting here telling you, yep, Ono's just doomed because of these things, because I think he will learn. I think he has the best coaching staff around at trying to figure out how to manage that and help him manage that. But again, it's not going to be easy. It's just different. It's a long season. You've got to be disciplined. It's a week in, week out growing process. You're trying to peak at some different times, and then obviously hit your ultimate peak there at Big Tens and Nationals. So I'm excited to see how it all plays out, and I think he'll do very well. But yeah, I do think it's a substantial learning curve here on those two fronts that he faces in the upcoming season.
We'll get one final thought on just that going into the next segment. Would all three of them, if they happen to make their way into the lineup as true freshmen, Ono, even though he is older, would be considered a true freshman here, would they be title contenders? We're going to answer that, talk about Levi, Haynes, Josh Barr, and more coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. Now, with the conference finals here, FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and even live during the game. With player props, performance trends, same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and to win big. And now's a great time to sign up for FanDuel, because if you are new to FanDuel, you can head over to FanDuel.com right now, and when you place your first $5 bet, if it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. That's right, and you can use that on the NBA playoffs. Let's look at some of those odds for the NBA playoffs. Tonight, the Indiana Pacers take on the New York Knicks. The Knicks are 4.5-point favorites, minus 186 on the money line. The Pacers are plus 156. The total is set at 224. If you like those lines, you can bet them over at FanDuel.com. And if you are a new customer and you sign up over at FanDuel.com, when you place your first $5 bet, if it wins, you'll get $200 to use in bonus bets on everything from the NBA playoffs and more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. So, Jeff, I want to follow up with an episode that I did solo talking about how all three of them would be instant NCAA title contenders. I don't know about favorites, but title contenders, which is fair to say, because when you're PJ Duke and you're defeating Antrell Taylor and you're defeating Ridge Lovett, again, these are reigning NCAA champions. I understand the nuances and the differences between folk style and freestyle, but you have to give credit, because speed, it's the strength, it's the savviness. When you're 18, 19 years old and you're going up against guys that just finished or are in the midst of their collegiate careers, they're veterans of the sport. They're further ahead of you and where you are, and you're defeating them regardless in this sport here. We talked about Ono's learning curve, which is why I wanted to follow up and get your answer about this. Whether it's Ono's at 133 or 141 or Blaze is at 133, 141, PJ Duke, if he somehow were able to, I mean, I'm not saying 165 or 174, he's going to take those weights away, but 157, he's wrestling at about 154, 155 right now. I'm not trying to stir anything up there, but if all three of them were in the lineup, I could make the argument these guys are top four, meaning that they are national title contenders as true freshmen. Is that the case?
Yeah, I think all three, by the time March rolls around, if they were in the starting lineup, would be contenders for sure. And again, there's a lot of things that have to go right, and you've got to work your way through the tournaments. So I wouldn't go so far as to say obviously any of them would be a lock, but yeah, I think for sure if they stay healthy and they were in the starting lineup, that any and all of them would be contenders, would be among the guys that you'd be penciling in as guys that could win their weight class at the NCAA tournament in Cleveland.
So now let's pivot back to guys that we know are going to be mainstays in this lineup. Levi, Haynes, and Josh Barr and their performances. Very much impressed with Levi Haynes. Jeff, you predicted it very accurately that Haynes would overcome that loss to Dean Hamiti, learn from his mistakes. I think freestyle, when you actually see it, it was difficult for me to project it in my mind. Okay, how is this actually going to go? Because they're going to be on their feet. But Levi Haynes just simply put overpowered Dean Hamiti. And it came down to it, the endurance of it, but freestyle actually helped him out because he was able, those times where they were close and Haynes couldn't finish off a takedown, but they were out of the circle and they had to go back to the mat. Now Haynes would get those points here and there by forcing him out of the circle because he was forcing the action, whereas that's just a neutral, that's a stalemate in folk style.
Yeah, once that second period got going, you could just see Levi figuring things out, feeling good on a roll, and Hamiti, I just thought I started to look a little fatigued, a little flustered. And again, Hamiti obviously is a great wrestler, and the thing about wrestling is you can see. Again, I wouldn't guarantee any result the next day if they wrestled, but I just thought that match Levi was really on point. That second period was very, very impressive. And, listen, I said it. Dean Hamiti deserved to win the national title, so I'm not. Yeah. This isn't knocking him in that way.
He had a great run. Yeah.
I just think Levi was the best, most consistent wrestler throughout the entirety of the season. He was not the best wrestler at the NCAA tournament. That's why he's not a national champion. And again, I don't begrudge Dean Hamiti earned it. That's not what my argument is. I do think, in terms of overall consistency throughout the course of the season and now into the freestyle season, I just think Levi Haynes is a next-level wrestler. And again, even next-level wrestlers can have off days, so he's certainly not unbeatable. But when he is on, I do think he is the guy, and I'm anticipating that he'll go in against a very good Evan Wick. And, I think – in many ways, getting that Hamiti match was great preparation for Evan Wick. I think there's some very similar styles there in terms of the length, the problems getting in and scoring on them. And I just think getting that match under his belt really helps Levi looking forward to that Final X matchup now.
It's funny to think of Evan Wick as a better version of Dean Hamiti. So you basically get Dean Hamiti and then a better version of Dean Hamiti at Final X. Jeff, I thought this was interesting because this was floating around on social media fairly commonly. I'm not saying everybody held this opinion, but that Levi Haynes actually looks better in freestyle than he does in folk style. Now that's interesting to me because this is somebody that has won an NCAA title and either finished as a runner-up as a true freshman. Austin O'Connor was a veteran of the sport, so that would have been a tall task for him, but he was close. He was in it. And then finishing third, nobody's going to remember third place, unfortunately, outside of the Penn State fan base there. But Haynes, second, first, and third, and now hit this attention to freestyle. And it seems that he's ramped it up now in the offseason. In just 2 years' time, I mean, he's going to Final X. He could represent a world team here right out of the gate when freestyle wasn't his main priority, his main focus just a couple of years back.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know that he's necessarily better at one or the other. I just think he's a great wrestler, period. And you put him in any style, and he just has that competitive nature. But the other thing he has, let's start with he has a great skill set. Like he is built to be a great wrestler, and he just has tremendous natural athleticism, but he also has that mindset, Zach, where he just is very comfortable going for it and does not shy away. He wrestles with a great degree of fearlessness. And I do think that mindset is a lot of the times what separates guys once you get toward the very top of the sport. And the exciting thing to me with Levi is I think he's a guy, I know the result was worse this year, but I think he was a better wrestler throughout the course of this past season than he was in his national title year, his sophomore year. And I think he will be a better wrestler next year than what he's been at any point in his career to this point. And part of it is he has an insatiable thirst to learn and continue to grow in the sport. And again, he's already at a very, very high level, but I think he's a guy that is still kind of just scratching the surface of how good he's going to be in both folk style and freestyle. And he's one of those guys to me that is just so much fun to watch, because he brings the combination of that enthusiasm or passion for the sport with the athleticism, and then with just the knowledge and the work ethic, and just everything you want in a great wrestler. And again, I think he's just going to keep getting better and better here as his career progresses.
Something that shouldn't be forgotten is that he did bump up 2 weight classes, and now that he has settled in, it looks completely natural that he's been up around 174 all this time. So he took 3rd after bumping up 2 weight classes from where he was as a true national title contender. So he's going to be at 174 this year. I fully expect him to, if he stays healthy, right? Everything, all the other boxes checked. If he's there in the NCAA tournament, when he's there, he will absolutely be my choice to win this upcoming season. Now, let's pivot to Josh Barr, because this is just I can't doubt Josh Barr ever. I just assume that he's going to be the favorite. I mean, granted, he was the number 1 overall seed here, and I don't know that 92 kilos was as stacked of a weight class compared to everywhere else, but I like what Aiden Sinclair had to offer. I thought that Josh Barr wrestled an incredible world team trials here, but it was almost, for me, expected. So maybe that doesn't, it's like, Haynes somewhat surprised me against Hamiti, and Josh Barr, it was just business as usual.
No, Josh is, again, I sound like a broken record, but he is just next level special. He just, and kind of the same type of stuff I was saying about Levi, I would say about Josh Barr. Just a tremendous hunger, just absolutely loves the sport, loves to compete. And, he's another guy, as you see him wrestle through these matches, you can just kind of see him figuring things out about, all right, this is what's going to work against this guy. This is the adjustment I maybe need to make here. And, he's going to do that from match to match, but he is one of those guys that can do it during the match. He can kind of self-evaluate, feel what's happening, see what's happening, and adjust and take advantage of whatever opportunities he can create for himself. And again, he's just a crazy good wrestler and a lot of fun to watch. And it's hard to believe that we get as Penn State, the Penn State wrestling community gets to still see 3 more years of Josh Barr at the collegiate level. That's something to be appreciative of if you're a Penn State fan.
Barr's going to meet his ultimate test here in Trent Hidlay. I know it's okay. Well, he lost to Stephen Buchanan. That's the ultimate test. At Trent Hidlay's, seasoned veteran. He's waiting there at Final X. And, I still think that Josh Barr's not a natural 197 pounder, right? He has adjusted. He has made the changes to settle into this weight class. I still have my reason to believe that, hey, 184 could be on the table, but he just continues again to prove that he belongs at 197 regardless. It's a win-win either way if he's at 84 or 97 for Penn State's case. But for Barr, he's excelling so well at 197, 202, since that's the 92 kilos. Yeah. And Trent's been doing this for a long time. I am eager of all the Final X matches. I know there's Luke Lillidahl and Spencer Lee. That's going to be one of the ones that I have circled, but it is that Trent Hidlay versus Josh Barr match. Can Barr do something that, should he be considered a realistic, not a favorite, an overwhelming favorite, but maybe you do lean him against Hidlay?
Yeah, it will be interesting because Hidlay obviously is an elite wrestler, and really, if it wasn't for Penn State, we'd be talking about Trent Hidlay as an all-timer here, probably in the sport. But he is. He's a really talented guy, really smart wrestler, and another one that's really tough to score on. I just boy, Josh is so good at creating his offense and finding ways to get to his takedowns and finish them off. I'm with you. I think it's going to be a very intriguing bout for the fans, and I think it'll be a fun one to watch. And, certainly I think Trent Hidlay has more than a chance of winning Final X, but just the way Josh is wrestling right now, the confidence he brings and the offensive array he has, it's hard for me to think that anybody right now is going to get the better of Josh Barr when he's on, and he was on at the trials, that's for sure.
You want to talk about conditioning and endurance. I know that Mitchell Messenbrink probably still leads the way there, but Josh Barr is not too far behind. Yeah. Speaking of somebody that's not too far behind, it came down to the final seconds. Carter Starocci nearly upset Kyle Dake 3-3 on criteria. And what I took away from that match is that maybe in a year's time, that result is completely different. We'll talk about it more coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. Now, I didn't buy into the fact that, I was ultimately right that, hey, I still think Dake's going to win here. But what ultimately surprised me is that it wasn't as convincing of a victory as maybe it should have been. And that passing of the torch, I feel like might be guaranteed next cycle if Carter Starocci continues this route, Jeff. Starocci, he world-class athlete. If he goes the MMA route, if he sticks with international freestyle wrestling, right, whatever he's going to immerse himself in, if it happens to be freestyle wrestling, I got to imagine that if this match is a do-over in a year's time, that Starocci is going to win this one against Dake, or maybe he meets Valencia. But I think that one was really close, and Starocci, if he had a few more seconds, would have beaten Dake.
Yeah, I'm still not sure that he didn't, at least in my mind. I know the ruling was what it was, but I certainly don't think there would have been much grousing if the takedown was upheld there at the end. But yeah, listen, they're very even. I think it's interesting because I do think Carter's still, cutting his teeth on the freestyle circuit. But I think Kyle is also kind of cutting his teeth on moving up to 86 kilos. So I think that they're both kind of just adjusting a little bit. They're both such great athletes, great competitors, little different stages of their careers. Kyle is working toward the end. I'm not ready at all to write him off. I think he could very well be in the Olympic Games in 2028. But, I think we're getting closer to the end of his career than we are certainly to the start of it in terms of his freestyle wrestling. And the thing with that bout is they both know each other so well. And again, they're both ultra competitive, great athletes. And it was largely the match I thought it would be in that I just don't think there's much separating those two. And it's another one where I think, again, if they wrestled 10 times, they probably go 5-5, maybe one goes 6-4 against the other. But there's just not much to pick from there. They both are really tough to score on. They both have some really good shots. I think Kyle is probably a little better mat wrestler at this stage than Carter is, but Carter did a great job not allowing himself to get turned there when he did get taken down. And yeah, I think, again, it's great wrestling. Two of the better wrestlers we've ever seen. The fact that you had 9 NCAA titles in one bout, obviously we've never seen that happen before in a bout. So it was all good, all fun stuff for fans. If you're a Penn State fan versus a Nittany Lion Wrestling Club fan, you're a little disappointed. Again, it was a tough call at the end. I would have given the takedown, but it's not like I think it was an egregious, outrageous call that they waved it off. I understand after looking at it why they did it, and there's no question Dake did have the chest wrap there, and I don't think he got exposed until after the clock expired there. But I mean, that's how close they are. It's a second here, one move there, and again on any given day. Give Kyle credit for winning this one, and I am really curious to see how he does against Valencia, because I kind of think, much like I thought Levi would come in with a different game plan and be able to solve some things against Hamiti. I'm kind of expecting that to be the case here with Dake, now that he's got the feel from Starocci, has another couple of months that he'll have under his belt at the new weight class. And then also just having that feel from Valencia the last time. I think that bout to me is maybe the most intriguing in terms of because I think Valencia is really, really hungry to get a spot on the world team. He's been so close so many times. I just think that bout is going to be a fascinating one to watch if you're a wrestling fan.
And that's my argument, is that if Starocci and Dake go up against one another in a year's time, whether that's the U.S., I don't think it's going to take an Olympic cycle for Starocci to get the torch. I think he's going to take it if he continues on this path. I at least saw that, hey, I know the 5 NCAA titles, they speak for themselves. Carter Starocci has the most confidence out of anybody of the Penn State Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. But he was, again, it was a matter of 0.5 second away from actually ripping the torch away. And I think in a year's time, that's going to be a realistic, more than just a realistic hypothetical scenario. I think it would happen.
Yeah, I would say it could happen. Kyle is just that guy just keeps.
I know I'm underestimating the Kyle Dake.
Well, he keeps figuring it out. And again, I think he's still. I don't think his body is truly there yet at the new weight class, and I think that's fair. Another year under his belt, I think he will be there and then some if that's what he chooses to do, and I'm expecting that's what he's choosing to do. So I think it's just going to be much the same thing, and it may be a passing of the torch, but I just don't think there's going to be much to choose from between those two for at least the next couple of years. Now, at some point, the cliche Father Time always wins is there for a while, but whether or not Father Time wins against Dake in the next year or two, I think that's very much up for debate, and we'll have to see how it plays out.
We'll see how it plays out with a rematch with Valencia to see if that's Father Time's here, if it's still delayed down the road. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. Still plenty to discuss in the offseason. Just because Penn State wrestling is in collegiate action, there is plenty to discuss around the World Team Trials, Final X in due time, and then lineup changes that are going to be at the forefront of all of this. He is the voice of Penn State wrestling. Special guest here on the show, Jeff Byers, bringing the insight, intrigue with all of it around this Penn State wrestling team and the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. Jeff, thank you so much for the time as always. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Zach.
And again, thank you so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. Thank you for checking out this episode and spending time with us on the show. Make sure you let us know your thoughts down in the comments section. Like this episode, share it with friends and family. Thank you to all the everydayers out there. If you are new to the channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to check out The Portal, Locked On's newest show devoted entirely to high school football recruiting and the transfer portal with host Brian Smith. It's available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.